Hello everyone, and welcome back to Conspiraseed. Today we're going to go over part 1 of tier 5 of the Disturbing Video Games Iceberg. If you enjoy the video, remember to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't. Thank you for choosing to spend some time with me today, and let's just roll on into it.
Nothing like being subscribed to Conspiraseed on YouTube. Nothing like it.
The Cat Lady is a horror graphic adventure game for Microsoft Windows released in 2012. The game is a puzzle-based adventure game and is entirely played using the 4 arrow keys, with the escape key being used to access the save and load menu. Characters can only move left and right, and you use up and down to interact with objects within the environment and your inventory. The protagonist of the game is Susan Ashworth, a chronically depressed, middle-aged woman with no friends. She hates flowers, and her only companions are stray cats, whom she summons to her apartment by playing the piano. She is known in the neighborhood as the Cat Lady. One night, she decides to take her own life, but this leads her to a strange place where she encounters the Queen of Maggots, who grants her immortality and gives her the task of ridding the world of 5 psychopaths that she refers to as the Parasites. Susan then returns to the Earth and wakes up in a hospital bed. She meets Liz, a nurse who hates her job. Liz tells Susan that her daughter saved her, to Susan's surprise, as she has no children. Susan attempts to escape, only to be stopped by Dr. X, the hospital's psychiatrist. He kills Susan, but because she is immortal due to the Maggot Queen's curse, she wakes up later in a hidden torture basement when another victim screams. She discovers that Dr. X actually kills his patients and uses them in a disgusting work of art. She escapes, and it's unclear whether she kills Dr. X or not. Susan gets home and just pretends that everything is okay and tries to go back to her normal life. While she's out calling for the cats, a neighbor tells her that the cats are a nuisance and threatens to call animal control. After this, Susan meets a young homeless woman who wants to be roommates named Mitzi. She is the one who saved Susan's life and lied about being her daughter. Susan sees the Queen of Maggots behind Mitzi, almost as a ghost, and realizes that Mitzi must be close to death. Mitzi then reveals that she has cancer. She then tells Susan that she had a boyfriend named Jack, who stumbled upon a suicide forum online and met a person called the Eye of Adam, who lured people to end their own lives. Mitzi says she wants to find this person and just go have a talk with them, quote, before she dies. Susan then hears cats howling outside and goes to look, only to be kidnapped herself by the animal control guy. Susan then wakes up tied to a table at the animal control man's house. He says that he is attracted to Susan, then his wife shows up and pours bleach over Susan's face. Now, why this dude decided to do this in front of his wife, who is very clearly not into it, is beyond me. The man then loses interest because of what his wife did, shoots Susan in the head, unaware of her immortality. Susan wakes up in an area littered with cat and human meat. She tries to call the police but is unsuccessful, so she kills the couple herself. Then, as if nothing happened at all for some reason, she goes back home. She helps Mitzi find the Eye of Adam. Mitzi asks Susan if she has any children, unknowingly opening old wounds, before Susan storms out, only to be murdered by a man pretending to give her flowers. Susan either has like a mark or a bounty on her or something, or is the unluckiest woman in the world. How has she died this many times? She wakes up on a dock, a limbo state between life and death. She sees a number of lit candles, with 3 being extinguished, 1 for each of her deaths. She puts 1 more out and returns to life. Waking up at home, she finds that she's tied to Mitzi in the bathroom. Susan then, instead of trying to call for help, talks about how she hates flowers. She talks about how 10 years ago, she was married to a man named Eric and had a daughter named Zoe. One night, while Eric was out working, she was home alone with Zoe. Flowers show up to her apartment for the upteenth time from a man who is interested in Susan despite her being married. She hides the flowers that showed up in Zoe's room. Eric, her husband, gets home and tells Susan about a terrorist attack that happened earlier in the day that nearly killed him. Alright, let's pause real fast. I don't know if it's the game or the websites that I'm researching from this, but it seems like this game glosses over a lot of stuff. There's Susan killing a bunch of people and then she just goes home like nothing happened. Maggot Queens? What happened to the 5 men that she was supposed to kill? What's going on? Maybe the 5 men are like, in general, like mankind. It was like, so Dr. X and then like the couple and then like the flower guy. I don't even know if she kills the flower guy. But then like, who's the 5th? The Eye of Adam? What is happening? There's a terrorist attack. She didn't even know about it. I don't understand this game at all. Anyway, Eric and Susan start arguing, and Zoe has the world's worst allergic reaction to the pollen in the flowers that Susan hid in her room, and she dies. The game ends when Susan tells Mitzi that Eric was also found dead shortly after, leaving her alone and depressed. The game is currently on Steam and has very positive reviews. It's also on sale for $2 until July 11th, 2024. I bought it so I can play it and hopefully figure out actually what is happening in this game. Because based on all the research I did for this game, it makes no sense. So I'm going to play it myself and we're going to see what happens. Now, there's nothing inherently disturbing about the game Boppin' itself, but the original 1.0 version, the uncensored version, has some creepy elements. It's a puzzle-oriented game developed under the company name Accursed Toys. The game only sold 284 copies at first, so the game's creator, Jennifer Reitz, got it republished by Apogee Software. The game takes place in a multiverse where fictional universes exist mostly from the minds and dreams of people. One universe is inhabited by video game characters, and we meet the protagonists Yeet and Boik. However, all the arcade games have been diminished due to the lack of bad guys since all the villains were taken away. Yeet and Boik are neutral characters who want to get the villains back to restore the universe as it should be. The levels are made up of blocks, elevators, and refractors. Throw blocks that you picked up from the starting point at other blocks of the same type which exist in the levels. The blocks are thrown at 45-degree angles and can be bounced off with their refractors. So here's where the disturbing part comes into play. You're probably thinking, but Conspiraseed, this just sounds like a normal 90s game. You're right, it does. But as I said, the original 1.0 version, or the quote-unquote uncensored version, has an odd tone, and the Accursed Toys logo has the company's original teddy bear, which is just a teddy bear stabbed with a kitchen knife and bleeding. In the game, if your character lost a life, they would end their own life by shooting themselves in the mouth or committing seppuku, respectively. These assets were replaced in the 1.1 version. The game's credits also contain lengthy manifestos from the creators about why they made the game, so this game was clearly made by very stable people. Devotion is a first-person psychological horror game developed by Red Candle Games. It's set in Taiwan in the 1980s, with the majority of the game happening in an apartment complex in Taipei. The game was actually removed from Steam shortly after its release, only 7 days later, after a controversial Easter egg referencing Chinese President Xi Jinping was found. The game was re-released 2 years later on Red Candle Games' own digital store. You control a troubled screenwriter, Du Fengyu, through a Taipei apartment with rooms that represent various years in the lives of the Du family during the 1980s. In the midst of domestic disputes, his daughter, Mei Xin, suffers from a mysterious illness, but enters a singing contest hoping to please and provide for her parents by becoming a popular singer. She doesn't make it to the second round though, as her performance wasn't good enough. Her illness worsens. A doctor suggests the family seek out psychiatric care for her illness, but Feng Yu instead begins to follow the teachings of a cult leader who could supposedly help cure his daughter and help her singing career. When he becomes increasingly obsessed with this cult, his wife, Li Feng, attempts to convince her husband to snap out of this obsession, but he accuses her of being possessed by evil spirits. Realizing that her husband is spiraling out of control and unwilling to listen to her, she leaves the family. Seeing the downward spiral of her father, Mei Xin asks her father to help her fold origami tulips, believing that she will be healed when enough have been folded to fill her room. Instead, at the instruction of the cult, Feng Yu performs a dark ritual by submerging his daughter in a bathtub full of rice wine, then locking her in the bathroom for 7 days, presumably causing her death. A post-credit scene shows Feng Yu sitting alone in his apartment in front of a TV that's playing static. Whether or not he is still alive is left ambiguous. Once the game is finished, the sounds of banging on a door and a dog barking can be heard on the menu, implying, to me at least, that Feng Yu is deceased. Mogeko Castle has a big warning on top of the Mogeko fandom page that says with big flashing warning signs, content warning, will assault and gore, so while I was typing it, I was sure that it was going to be an interesting find. The premise of the game is that a schoolgirl named Yonaka Kiri arrives at a castle inhabited by Mogekos, an in-universe creature, after falling asleep on the train home. She spends the majority of the game escaping the castle. The disturbing part of this game is that they keep bringing up subjects of fear and murder and suicide for no reason, and there's a lot of gore that shows up also for no reason. Otherwise, it's a pretty standard RPG game with just a lot of controversial topics added for seemingly just the shock value. So sadly, it's not as interesting as I thought it was going to be when I started writing on it. It's mostly just being edgy for the sake of being edgy, unfortunately. I can't find it online for purchase anywhere. If you are interested in learning more about it, you'll either have to watch like a YouTube Let's Play or, yo ho, Pirate's Life for me. And that is part 1 of tier 5 of the Disturbing Video Games Iceberg. Please leave a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe if you haven't already. What is the most disturbing game on this list so far, you think? If you haven't watched the other videos, go ahead and click here to watch them. Thank you for choosing to spend some time with me today. I really do appreciate it. I really do enjoy making these videos and having people watch it and say that they like watching the videos that I make. It really means a lot. Again, thank you for choosing to spend some time with me. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.